What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Half-Ass Pod Film Panel. It's your boy Corn. Over here to my right, we have the author, the creator, the end-all be-all of not only Walter Paisley Cafe, but Spadal, Mark Platt. Mark, say what's up to the people, man.
Hey, people. I hope you're like me, ready for some schlock. The height of schlock.
And I, you know what's funny? I saw that word and I wanted to know what it meant, so I can't wait for you to explain what that word means as well. But down here we have your trench captain, Smith.
Yep.
Smith, say what's up to the people, man.
What's up? I'm here again. Hey, but I like the design you did on that T-shirt, Mark. The spooky season. I'm gonna get one of those sweatshirts on order.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
thank you.
That's not bad. I like that spooky season. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. The T Public one?
I don't know. You posted on Instagram. I'll have to look.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, because if you go to T Public, I don't think it's still on sale because but next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, it'll be on sale for like 38% off. Or
All right.
around there. Yeah.
Get on Wednesday.
Shout out to Grandmaster. He says gamers. And he also says spoopy. I don't know what spoopy is, but what up, man?
I like that word.
Also,
I don't know.
Also, shout out to Jaren. Jaren, you actually came in at the beginning of one of our reviews.
All right, Jaren. Yeah. Well, we're on extra late, so it helps.
Oh yeah, that's also true. That's also true. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have the movie review. It's going to be more of like a discussion, kind of what we did last time. But we are going to be doing the movie discussion of the Gore Gore Girls, coming from and correct me if I'm wrong, 1977, right, Mark?
1972.
Thought it was 72.
72?
Yeah.
Ooh, so I was 5 years old.
I was
way off.
I was almost.
You can't do math either. That's 4 years.
Yeah.
Just double fucked.
Well, no. I said 77. You said what, 72, right? Or you said 73? 72?
72.
Oh, so that's 5.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 5 years.
Okay, never mind. But now I'm the asshole. Whatever.
So Mark, take it away. What is this movie actually about?
All right. Well, it was directed by Herschel Gordon Lewis, who became known as the Godfather of Gore. And he is credited for creating the splatter film. And this is really what you get in this film. This was the last of his run of splatter films until 2002, when he made a sequel to one of the films called Blood Feast 2. So Blood Feast was the first splatter film that he did. He had been an exploitation director for a few years, and he made what were called the juvenile delinquent films and nudie cuties and different kinds of exploitation films like that were really big on the drive-in circuit. I don't know if you could consider Grindhouse at this point. I don't know. Honestly, I know it's like I'm losing geek points, but yeah, I can't recall exactly when the Grindhouse era properly begins. So, but this one is interesting because it's kind of a parody of his prior splatter films. So there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek in here. There's a bit of intentional humor. We talked about schlock. So schlock, it's hard to make a hard definition of schlock. It's kind of like what Louis Armstrong said about jazz. If you have to ask what jazz is, you don't know, or you'll never know. And it's kind of the same thing with schlock. Or I think some judge on some obscenity trial said, well, I don't know exactly what pornography is, but I know it is when I see it. That's how I feel about schlock. I don't know exactly what schlock is, but I know what I see. I mean, characteristics of schlock, of course, are a very low budget, poor lighting, poor sound, bad acting, unintentional camp, unintentional humor, and often these movies are considered, so bad they're good. Those types of films. So, and that's what we get, and that isn't just, for film. It's for TV or just any kind of thing with similar characteristics. So what we have here is another interesting little piece of trivia, having been released in 1972. Now, mind you, the MPAA started the rating system, I believe it was around 68, 69. So Blood Feast, having come out in 63, wasn't rated at all. There was no rating system. The only reason why he probably got away with all that kinds of crazy gore that was going against a lot of the rules that were made like way back to like the 30s or even the 20s, was on the drive-in circuit, whatever, just cheap movie houses. Nobody gave a shit. So so here in 1970, he was actually the first film that he submitted to the MPAA, and they gave it an X, and I don't even think he bothered putting any ratings on it when he released it and distributed it. So
What do you mean by an X? Like they gave it like an X rating, or they gave
an
it like the
X
X
rating.
like a thumbs down?
No, an X rating. Well, okay, see,
Okay.
back in the beginning, X didn't just mean pornography like it does now. I mean, that's the reason why we have NC-17, because that was for artistic reasons. They thought maybe we could have NC-17 films appear in major movie theaters because they outright reject X films just because of the pornographic aspects. But if you look at films like Clockwork Orange and Shaft, those were released as X-rated films, and those are not.
That's crazy though.
Yeah.
I could somewhat see Clockwork Orange being that, but Shaft X, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of the times. I mean, this is all subjective. It all depends on who's on the board. There's not a lot of hard and fast rules. I mean, if you read some of the horror stories about how people have to deal with the ratings board, they struggle. Like Steven Spielberg really struggled with the ratings board, but he got Jaws a PG rating. There's no way in fucking hell that movie, if it was as is, completely as is, right now as we see it, could have been a PG. I don't know, not even a PG-13. I think that's right, because that's a really fucking scary film. I mean, not just for the like gore and whatnot, it's just terrifying. So yeah. I mean, I attended a viewing of Jaws at my public library, the main branch, and some people actually brought kids, and none of those kids lasted past the first scene. They were out, So yeah, MPA rating system, pretty crazy. But yeah, that's a little story about this of what H.D. Lewis had to deal with in 1972. So to get to the plot of the film, what we have here is a mystery. All right, a stripper in Chicago named Susie Cream Puff is a victim of a horrible, grisly murder. And a reporter named Nancy Weston, it goes to a private investigator. Apparently, he's a well-known private investigator because he's often like, yes, I am that, Abraham, what was his last name? Abraham Gentry. Yeah, so he's supposed to be famous. So this reporter comes from the Globe and delivers a $25,000 offer to get him to solve the crime and therefore give them the story. And she starts him off with a $5,000 expenses bill, which the Gentry goes on to use for a lot of bribes, greasing a lot of palms along the way. So the thing about Gentry that I think is really interesting. Now, the last time I watched this film, it was just around about the time that House MD was on the air. Have you watched that show?
No.
Okay.
Oh, House? Yeah.
Yeah, House. Yeah.
And, you don't know House Corn?
No, I know what it is. I've never watched it.
Oh, damn, dude.
It
Going
never
under a rock.
it never interested me. Like I just never been interested. But I mean, I know what it is.
Well, yeah, the character of Gregory House, he's really gruff and he's curt, and also curiously, he walks with a cane. And back then, I was like, oh my gosh, I honestly think that the creators completely ripped off Abraham Gentry, or maybe not completely ripped off, but definitely had some sort of weird influence on them for Gregory House. I mean, the characteristics are very similar. Now, mind you, it's been a long time since I've seen House. I mean, honestly, I enjoyed it while I watched it, but it's not one of those shows that I'm going to come back to because it was very character driven, but it's very formulaic TV show where you could almost set your watch to when the first freak out happens of the victim that they have to diagnose, all these different aspects. All right. So anyways, so they have to, Nancy Weston starts coming to the investigation with Abraham Gentry as a reporter, and he sort of uses his guile and dickishness to sort of manipulate her into helping him or just getting rid of her because he feels she's getting in the way. So as they start to go to strip clubs and investigate and question people, there's a guy in the strip club that was unfortunately a Vietnam vet that had PTSD that sat at the bar, drew faces on various fruits and vegetables, and smashed them on the bar. Yeah. And then come to find out he was in Vietnam and he started like squashing heads of the Vietnamese as well as the people on the other side, be the American or whoever. But so as this suspect list grows, grisly murders ensue. And this being a slasher film, we sit through every single aspect and see all the blood and guts that you could possibly see. And now, mind you, this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek because it may not be really sharp or high humor, but there's definitely a bit of humor in all the violence and gore. And mind you, these effects are pretty cheap. It's kind of, this is not the height of special effects. So the fun comes out in how cheap looking everything is, because Herschel Gordon Lewis was like, I don't care. I just want blood and guts. Let's go for it.
Yeah, this didn't work for me. I sat down and watched this movie, man, and I tried to go along with it. I don't know what it was. I couldn't connect with it. It was a movie that just kept repeating itself a lot, and I was just like, this movie's fucking horrible, dude. Like I was sitting there, I'm just like, oh man. I hope Mark doesn't get on here. It's like, this is the greatest movie ever, or this is, a classic movie ever. And I'm just like, oh man, I fucking hate this movie. This was bad, man. This really was bad. And not to knock on like the cheapness of it, because I mean, you got to deal with what you got, whatever budget you got. You know what I mean? But just like storyline wise, you could have done way better. I mean, there are some points here and there, not many, but there are some points here and there where I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. Like I liked how detailed they were with the kills. I like that. These kind of movies, and again, maybe I'm just being a little bit biased because these kind of movies are not what I look for in horror, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's like when I am presented to it, it's just a comedy horror and it's a classic. 1972. So I get, all right, the day and age that it came out in as well. You got to factor that in there as well with the budget. But like, it was just like, I was like, bro, this again, the kills, like that French fry part, like where it was like the French fries boiling on the fucking stove and then puts the face into the fucking, I was like, okay, all right. I like that. I don't know what I like that part because if you've ever worked at a restaurant, You kind of always kind of envision taking your manager's head and put it into the So you're like, all right, cool,
I've been there,
cool.
been there.
I'm like, you know what? I feel like putting you in a fryer right now. You know what I mean? So it's just like that. I really appreciated that kill. Like when I saw that, I was like, but Smith, what about you? What were some notable parts in it about this movie?
What a fucking film, honestly. Like, I think if you cut out all an X rating for the time period is appropriate because this is definitely porn star acting, and, but I enjoyed it. I like how there was little to no exposition. You see someone die, first 3 minutes on camera, and then it goes right into here's an investigator. This is what's happening. I'm like, all right, sweet, I love it. There's no fucking dicking around, or straight to the point.
Yep.
And I can't speak for Korn, but Gentry, right? That's his name, A.B. Gentry. He was pretty relatable to me. I like the character. He's funny. And I think if you cut out every part of this film where there's like a lewd woman on screen, that probably wouldn't make it to PG-13 stuff. You'd have like a 20-minute film. So it's not bad. It's not bad.
Before I watched it, I said I texted in the group chat. I was like, Mark, I hope there's a lot of tits in this movie. Well, there were.
There's like 5-minute periods where it's just striptease. It's like watching.
Now, when I replied, very much so, I had a very particular scene in mind. It was a scene where a victim has her nipples clipped off with scissors.
Yes. And
one
the milk.
breast releasing white milk into some kind of wine glass. And and the other breast was chocolate milk. Oh, that's wow. To me, I saw this the first time when I was like, I don't know, 19 years old in a punk rock club. Yeah, I was like, that's the most amazing thing. Who would have fucking thought of that?
I mean, we know that they're purposely going over the top, which again is not the reason why I didn't like this movie. But what was that a selling point for you guys? The fact that they were so over the top in this movie?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's probably the only selling point of this film, really, outside of the tits, is that it is a comedy and it's over the top. So you watch it, you see some crazy shit and you laugh. This isn't a horror film. I wouldn't even call it that, right? Were you scared at all during this entire film? Yeah, right. You don't feel that even from the opening scene. You're like, okay, he pushed this girl's face into the mirror or whatever, but yeah.
What about you, Mark?
Well, yeah. I mean, over the top sells me all the time. I mean, my favorite movies, especially in horror and splatter, are over the top. I mean, if I have to mention someone else as far as going over the top, it would have to be John Waters. Have either one of you seen any of his early films? And I'm not talking about Hairspray or Crybaby. I'm talking about Pink Flamingos and Female Trouble and just films like that. I mean, actually, John Waters is related to this because he said that he was once at a drive-in watching a Herschel Gordon Lewis film, and someone in the car next to him poked their head out of the window and puked on the ground. And he said to himself, now I know I want to make movies. And
oh my God.
Why we have John Waters movies.
you know who else I think probably said that as well? You probably guess it in one guess, but Rob Zombie.
Oh yeah.
Well, I would imagine he's probably very familiar with H.G. Lewis. I mean, I would be shocked if he wasn't.
So during this movie, I it wasn't like a roller coaster or anything like that, but there were some highs, there were some lows. I do want to ask you guys, what was your favorite part or your favorite scene of this movie?
Mark?
All right. Wow. It's a tough call between the uh, chocolate milk, white milk scene and the woman being bent over a table and her ass pounded to a pulp with a meat tenderizer hammer, and then the killer finishes off with uh, salt and pepper. So yeah.
Didn't he hit her in the back of the head first, right? Or was that the other
Yeah,
chick?
yeah.
Okay.
The killer bonked the woman on the head. She fell down on the table, and the killer proceed. Or we go with we go with spoilers all the time, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
Abraham Gentry meets a waitress named Marlene in the beginning, and Gentry's crude to her or whatever. He's snarky, and she gives him shit back. They don't like each other, and she works in another strip club, but they're all owned by the same guy, I guess. I don't know if there was 2 or 3 strip clubs, but incidentally, the Marsden Mobile, the owner of the strip clubs, was played by, I don't know if you know this comedian, but he was really famous back in I mean, he came out of the vaudeville days. His name was Henny Youngman, and he was known as
Oh.
King of the One-Liners. And he was famous for the joke, "Take my wife, please." So that was his joke. And he was kind of over the
You say
peak of his
wife or
career.
life?
Take my wife, please. So that was his joke, the king of the one-liners. So so yeah, but it was kind of past the peak of his career with this movie. So I'm sure he had higher paying gigs in the past. But he just happened to be in this one, and all of his scenes were filmed in one day.
Really?
Another bit of fun trivia. Did corn freeze on you? Okay, there we go. Okay, good. So yeah, but yeah, definitely meat tenderizer scene, probably my favorite, and nipples, close second. Close second.
Well, I kind of already let the cat out of the bag with my favorite scene in this movie, which was the French fry scene. Like I love the kills. I won't say I love the kills in this movie, but they were very creative. I really do fuck with the kills in this movie. More than I did in fucking Nightmare on Elm Street. Fucking which one was it? 5. The one that had
You could
like
pick any
no
number,
good,
probably.
no good ones. I think it was like I think 5 was the one that had like no good fucking kill scenes, and it actually had a high kill count too, which was stupid. But anyways,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, I mean, but that was my favorite scenes. Smith, what about you? What was your favorite?
Dude, it's hard to even choose. Like, probably every scene with Lieutenant Anderson. If I could just choose all, I think there's 3 total. It's such a fucking. Then what happens? It's like, dude, what a guy.
Oh, the way he yelled at people, like, yeah, everybody out, or I'm gonna start arresting everybody.
I don't know, man. This movie it wasn't like a laugh out loud to me. I don't know. It just wasn't like, you know what I mean. I sat there. I wasn't like grimace. You know what I mean. I wasn't like this the whole time or anything like that. But I was just sitting there. I was just like, that's whatever. But it wasn't like ha ha, funny to me. It just. But anyways, I do want to get to the next part, and I'm sure it'll be very challenging for you guys. Not challenging for me, as you guys already know. But if there was one thing you guys would fix in this movie, or a scene you guys would fix in this movie, what would it be and why?
All right, what is the name of the reporter again?
Nancy Weston.
Nancy, right? The only thing I would change is just to have her tits on screen at the end, because they're building up to it the whole time. The camera doesn't pan up, and you've already seen so many tits. It's like, why not? Why not? I mean, I'm sure she was like an actual actor who was like, yeah, I'm not doing nude stuff, but still, it just fucking. And then even at the end where he's like, yeah, that's all you get. You've seen enough, and I'm like, are you serious, bro? The last 30 minutes of the film, that's what this is about. That's why I'm invested. That's about it. I mean, it's one of those films that's hard to critique, just like Toxic Avenger, because it is very niche.
And yeah, I was gonna get to that too about comparing this between because Toxic Avenger I actually enjoyed when I was watching it. It was like this one I was just like I'm just not fucking with it. But I also wanted to talk about Toxic Avenger as well because remember when he was having sex in Toxic Avenger, he was having sex with old girl, and she didn't whatchamacallit, she didn't get nude. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And it was the whole thing because the actress didn't want to get nude. So I'm thinking, Smith, you might be onto something. Maybe she was one of those girls that was like, "Hey, look, I know you got me in this lead role, but or at least in a supporting role, but I'm not fucking showing my tits."
Yeah, I really think so because even like, I was thinking the same thing. I think it was after her strip scene when he takes her home, or into her apartment, and she lies down on the couch, and her like skirt dress,
Yeah.
her butt was revealed even though it wasn't naked, but she pulled it
Mm-hmm.
down, and even Gentry reached down and pulled it down a little too. So I really have to wonder if that's wasn't what was going on. I mean, it seems kind of obvious, really. Yeah.
So, Mark, I want to ask you if there's one thing you would fix about this movie, what would it be?
Well, honestly, certain technical aspects. I think that despite the budget and things like that, there were certain things with the sound that was a little uh, inconsistent. Things like that. I mean, I will have to admit the lighting wasn't bad. I mean, I've seen movies where you can barely see anything, things like this. So we didn't have those aspects. But yeah, the sound, there were certain things about the editing that was just a little off. I do have to wonder, if they couldn't have done a little bit a better job with those sort of things, even with what they had. So, because I mean, but now mind you, I mean, if you know me well, I'm a guy who likes shittily done movies. But since I do watch a lot of them, it's kind of like, oh, I know that despite their intentions and the schlockiness, I think they could have just turned the volume a little bit more on certain technical aspects of the film.
I feel that. I feel that. And you're not, and like you say, you're not talking about like in terms of lighting. You're talking about in terms of like the intensity of film of the scenes, right?
Yeah, just certain things about the sound, certain things about the editing, things like this. They just, and yeah, well, one thing is you mentioned the humor, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they almost, I mean, because like a lot of, especially Gentry, I mean, he told a lot of puns and things like this, and I think they actually should have tweaked up the corniness of them and maybe even made the jokes even more stupid and dumb, just to sort of coincide with how everything's just over the top anyway and it's all tongue in cheek. So it's like, yeah, why not have crappier jokes?
Look, and Smith actually touched on this a little bit earlier when he was talking about the whole horror thing, right? So it kind of got me thinking because I want to ask you guys, how do you like your horror? What do you really constitute as horror? Because yes, you do have the I guess you can Google the definition of horror, but what are your definitions of horror? Like I feel like to us, what's our definition of horror? Does it have to be scary?
You're
Or,
about to turn this into a 15-minute podcast to like an hour and a half. Like,
But
but
by all means, Smith, you should have the floor.
yeah,
Because we always overtalk you, so please do.
yeah. I mean, I don't usually have as much to say, but as far as horror goes, no, it doesn't need to be scary. You don't because if on this film you're watching these what would be horrible scenes, and probably to that guy who threw up out the side of his car, it would be. But you don't have to be on the edge of your seat for it to be a horror film. That's the way I feel. That's more thriller, right? So if I was watching this anticipating like, oh my God, is she going to get away or not? That'd be thriller. So horror for me, and I'm a big sci-fi fan, so it usually falls under like inescapable circumstances that are just shitty. I think that's the best definition I can give.
Mark, what about you?
Well, I play to the genre names, and this could be called semantic. This particular film, it's called the splatter film, and H.G. Lewis pretty much set the standard for splatter films, and that's really mostly what those kind of films are about. Not as much for the scare, so much for the shock. So when it comes to horror films, uh, I don't have to be scared. I mean, I've been watching them since a very young age. Maybe some studies could be done about me, but I don't know. But so it's I'm not as scared by horror films. Being like, gosh knows, like 40 some odd years after the first time I saw some serious horror films. So, uh, but sometimes I can be scared. I mean, one of the things that does scare me plays to my prejudices. And my prejudices are rednecks and hicks. So, like, evil redneck movies, yeah, like
Rob Zombie films.
Because they don't necessarily scare me when I'm sitting there, but if I am out in the country, if I am out what I consider desolation or small towns, I'm very nervous. And I think a lot of that came from seeing movies like Hills Have Eyes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre at a very young age. And I mean,
Or even Deliverance, probably.
Yeah, that's a scary
That's
movie without being technically a horror film. Yeah, at least it was to me. Yeah, because I don't know. It's because like I'm a city slicker or whatever. It's like, yeah, people. I live in a low income, high crime neighborhood, and people are afraid to come to my neighborhood. Like to visit or pick me up. But to me, it's like, yeah, okay, you got the crime, and I'll admit this is probably, based, it's just not really based on reality. It plays my inner childish fears, where it's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, maybe I could get shot or stabbed or something, but at least I'm not on a meat hook running, squiggling around with a chainsaw coming off the back of me with a guy that wants to carve my face off and wear it as a mask. So, and that's what I always think about, in the middle of nowhere or in a small town with, folks. They just like, with me, it's like, yeah, city slickers with their apathy and their sarcasm and passive aggressive. Like, yeah, I'll take
and all
that
their crime.
yeah. And that's the worst of it. Otherwise, it's like the city. To me, it feels secure. At least if something bad goes, it's not hard to find someone else that may be able to help. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, like, I don't know, Camp Crystal Lake, there's not many places to go.
And it's weird that you say that about, like playing to your fears and your prejudgments. That's kind of like how you, view your horror a little bit, how you get, kind of plays on your fears. Because I grew up in a small town, and I love, like, my kind of horror movies are like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of, like I love slasher movies. Like, I feel like we don't have enough of true slasher movies. And again, what's the real definition of true slasher? You know what I mean? So, but I definitely, I grew up on, the Michael Myers and the J, stuff like that. The Chucky and Michael Myers were my two mains, but that's how I like my horror. Those Final Destination, I think, is more of a like thriller than it is a horror. Some people classify it as horror. Me personally, I don't. I think Scream is another one, but again, I mean, it's all opinionated, right? Like you said earlier, Mark, the genre, the whole genre and then subgenre thing gets so convoluted. Nothing's really, official. You know what I mean? There's no official like
Yeah.
definition of what is this and what is that.
Right. Well, with horror, it's like I expect certain reactions. Like I don't go into a horror film expecting to be warm and fuzzy. I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's a comedy, it's sort of like I want to be shocked in some ways. I mean, like with gore, it's like, yeah, I have quite a resistance to being affected by gore, but there are movies where I'm like, like the scene
Yeah.
that we spoke about in Nightmare on Elm Street, where the kid's arteries are ripped out of him and then he's being used as a puppet. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that gave me the willies. So, if I'm a little disheveled or disturbed by something like that, then the horror movie did its job.
True. True. And just like what Smith mentioned earlier, like your definition, Smith, is being in a situation like an inescapable situation, right? And that attracts because what we do as viewers, as like the audience, we kind of put ourselves sometimes in that person's shoes, which means that you're gonna have that fear just sitting there watching it. And look, man, like I said, man, everybody has their own definitions of horror, and it's pretty much plays on your own fears. I like both you guys pretty much pretty much said the same thing, but with two different dynamics, which is pretty fucking awesome. But now let's get to the most important part of this review.
I think you should go first.
Oh, you guys want me to go first?
Yeah, I think you should go first.
Well, since you asked. Oh yeah, that's not my
shit.
grade, by the way. That's not my grade, by the way.
What the hell was that? Leftover
I hit the wrong button. That's definitely yeah. You want to talk about trolling?
Talk about flipping the script, Corey.
I give this movie an A. Yeah, never gonna happen. Look, man. This before I get this grade, this movie to me, it wasn't a complete shit show or anything like that. I didn't have fun with it. I didn't like it. I was still a little bit entertained throughout the movie, but I wasn't fully entertained where I was just like sitting there like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? Because at least, like I said, when I compared it to like Toxic Avenger, because remember when I told you guys when I started Toxic Avenger, when I started that movie, it was just complete. I was like, what the fuck am I watching? But then, it goes up, then it goes back down, goes up. And that movie was it was a fun roller coaster to me. This movie is like riding on your skateboard going down like a hill in San Francisco. Like there's no roller coaster, none of that shit. It's just straight downhill. And unfortunately, I have to give this movie a D.
That is harsh.
I have to give this movie a D. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to, man. Look,
right in the middle.
the one thing I don't blame it for, I don't put the blame on is like obviously the budget, the camera work, but it's just like you mentioned earlier, Mark, like they could have done like both you guys, the two things you guys said they could work on, they literally could, and my grade probably would have been better. I probably would have enjoyed the movie just a little bit more. But again, they could have intensified the scenes a little bit. They could have at least intensified the killings a little bit instead of just like, he's just doing it. You know what I mean? He's just chopping her fucking ass. It's just like, come on, man. He's just putting her head in the fucking pan with fucking French fries boiling. You know what I mean? And it's just like, come on, we could have had some cool music. Maybe the camera a little bit closer, a slower walk.
Oh, that music was clearly all public domain music. I mean, that was what they call library music.
But that's my grade for this movie. Smith, I'll ask you next. What was your grade of the Gore Gore Girls?
I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit. And I'm a big fan of Neil Breen, and he's another guy who makes movies that are so bad they're good, which I didn't know coming into this movie, but it's pretty easy to figure out. Like first 10 minutes, you're like, okay, this movie sucks. but I'm gonna give this a B minus. I did enjoy it, and I'll probably watch it again. I might even put it on with my friends. I mean, there's plenty of tits. You don't like the storyline, whatever. Enjoy that at least.
Yeah. Yeah, there are if there's plenty of anything in this movie, there's plenty of tits and there's plenty of killing. I mean, hey, that checks two really big boxes that horror movies nowadays in 2021 don't
They miss.
much use. Yeah.
And say what you want about the special effects, but when he's digging, or when she is digging through that girl's head, it's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that was pretty brutal.
Oh, you mean
I don't know how they did that.
again, that could have been, but again, you mentioned that though. That could have been more like a more intense scene though.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. It's just like, dude, this could have been such a masterpiece if they just made it. Again, you can have a really shitty movie. Just ask Zack Snyder and about Justice League, about the Snyder Cut, that 4-hour piece of shit. Like but the cinematics in that movie are phenomenal. Like, it makes you really believe that movie's better than the original version. I mean, it is a little bit, but not too much.
It was a little
But
bar.
so if they did that with this movie, I would at least be in awe. I'd be like, oh wow, this killer is going super duper way too far. When I was sitting there watching this movie, and it's not like intensified, I'm sitting there like, oh, he's okay, all right, cool. You know what I mean? But I'm talking about, we need the whole shebang, the music, the camera work, everything. And again, you could do that with like that cheap camera that they use, but.
So you're saying remake or reboot?
Oh no! Oh,
come on, dude! It would be a masterpiece if they actually like had like modern day cinematography shit, neon lighting in the clubs, dude. Come on, it'd be the next Blade Runner.
They need to get what's his name House to play Abraham Gentry. Man, I would love to see that. I want to see this character live.
Or they should get a real porn star to play the guy.
They have to get what's his name out of prison then, right?
Ron Jeremy, right?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Ron Jeremy's in prison.
You didn't know?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, dude, the guy's in prison.
Yeah, all the porn stars he had sex with accused him.
Well, I think he's in jail right now, I think, but he'll probably
for harassment.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Wow. Oh wow. You know, Ron Jeremy in a Toxic Avenger movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What in the? He was in the first one, right? Yeah.
He was in the fourth one. My favorite.
Oh, the fourth one. Okay.
Yeah, he plays the mayor of Tromaville.
Okay, yeah, I remember we talked about it in the review. I didn't know I can't remember whether he was in the first one or not. Okay, so he's in the fourth one. That's the good one, right? That's when you say
my
it's
favorite.
Good one, right? So Mark, I want to throw it over to you. What was your grade of this movie? I'm pretty sure I know this, but what's your grade of this movie and why?
Well, I have been here before on this show, where the criticisms that have been aired in this film, about this film, from you and Smith, and even myself, obviously, I don't disagree with. I mean, yeah, they're all very good points. However, I still love this film. I think the character of Abraham Gentry is really delightful. I love how he was a male character in a film with a bunch of boobies and strippers and all this stuff, and he wasn't being a total pig about it. I know, in a way, they defied the stereotype, like, oh, we got to have boobies, so all the men have got to be tripping over themselves and blah blah blah, and like he was just cool as a cucumber, Oh, speaking of cucumbers,
oh hell,
oh yeah, that's a great fucking thing.
Yeah. That stripper was coming on to Gentry, and he left, as he did in. Throughout the entire film, and to the very end when he finally came together with Weston, and she immediately went to the refrigerator and pulled out a cucumber, and And then, of course, she was killed. And during the kill scene, they kept shooting back to the cucumber. So, make of that what you will. I don't think you need a literature degree to figure out the symbology going on there. All right. So, and yeah, with the lieutenant, his acting was horrible, but wow, he was delightful. Just everything was campy. I mean, that's the thing. I'm a sucker for camp. I'm a sucker for schlock. Um, maybe for effort. I mean, mind you, my grades are always in context. Friend of mine, very few of my friends watch this because I don't know, whatever. They're old and they have kids. But okay, but one guy was like, "Oh, you seem to be pretty inconsistent with your grades," and I was like, "Look, there's always context. I always give them context." So, while mind you, maybe other films you thought, wow, Mark gave those lower grades. Why does he give this one an A? And that's what I give it. So I give it an A. Yes, ooh, because it's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's certainly my favorite H.G. Lewis film. I think, him parodying himself really brought about a lot of aspects. Now, hey, you can disagree with me. If you're curious, you should see some of his other splatter films. They're quite a treat.
Mark, I want to ask you why not an A plus?
Well, it's not quite there exactly. It's if it, like I said, with my criticisms about the film, with the criticisms you guys gave, I disagree with, because I've seen schlock films where they've made amazing, they did amazing feats with very little. And yeah, this doesn't get an A plus, but I love the heart of this film. I love the balls to the wall, over the top. Like, we don't give a fuck. We're just gonna make this movie. It's like, look, you look at me. It's like, oh hey, Mark Platt, he's the far left guy who makes PC phrase statements. So like, look, I don't know. I think I'm just really good at separating reality from fantasy. When it's a movie, it's kind of like, hey man, whatever. It's like, I don't think this film was.
And that's the thing. We need more of that too. We need more people that separate.
Yeah,
the two.
I don't think this movie was trying to be hateful in any aspect at all. I mean, I've seen movies that are hateful, and I don't like them, but I don't know. I mean, people would disagree with me, but whatever. I mean, that's me, because like I said, Ron Jeremy's in jail. That really makes me sad. I love the guy in a lot of movies, and I mean outside of porn. I mean, honestly, I've only seen, like maybe 2 or 3 of his porn movies. So
I wasn't even thinking out, dude. I wasn't even thinking about the porn. That's the funny part.
Right. I mean, that's where he got to start, basically. I think, but now he's in jail for harassment. I'm like, well, okay. I mean, I do think that there's got to be some sort of standard set, but yeah, at the same time, it's like, can I still watch him in movies like Toxic Avenger and Bloody Bible Camp? Yeah, I guess so. Guilty, So I don't get
not canceled in your eyes.
Yeah. Well, no, I guess not. I guess I don't cancel him, but like Mel Gibson, that guy's fucking canceled. I have a hard fucking time watching Road Warrior movies anymore.
Oh fuck, dude! I love Mel Gibson.
Oh no, it just
Max Fury, man.
Sight of him.
Yeah, dude, come on.
Oh boy,
Lethal Weapon. But anyways, Mark, and that's a good thing that you mentioned that too. That's why I wanted to ask you, like, why didn't you put it as an A plus? Because you heard it here first, folks. Over here on Half Ass, we're not biased. We critique and we rate our shit, the movies, even if we love them. One of your favorite movies, you just said, it's one of your favorite movies that you go back to, you watch, love watching it for fun, and you still gave it only an A, not an A plus, an A. So again, we are completely unbiased over here. But yes, anything else you guys want to say about the Gore Gore Girls? Oh, by the way, I do want to mention one thing I did find out is that one of the movie title that this movie was supposed to be was it Bloody Orgy, right?
Blood Orgy, yeah.
Yeah, Blood Orgy. Okay, so I fucked up the
Blood
title of this video of this live stream because I put Bloody Orgy, but Blood Orgy. You said
And then,
right?
uh, on, and then otherwise unreal. Oh yeah,
Okay, I think we got you back,
yep.
Mark.
Blood Orgy. And then otherwise unrelated note. There's a movie called Blood Orgy of the She Devil. I don't know if they're real. Oh, I went out. Oh, okay. Am I here?
A little bit. You're like
Okay.
going in and out.
I don't know. I just said on an unrelated. There's also a Orgy of the She, and that was.
Oh, okay.
Oh
What
shit!
you guys?
Wait, let me see. Okay, wait. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I do want to say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for coming through and watching us and just kicking it with us as we sit back and talk about the Gore Gore Girls, which, by the way, as Mark stated earlier, was Herschel's last movie that he directed until what, 30 years later? You said, right? So he did
2002. So yeah, about exactly 30 years. Yeah, the last splatter film, but that he did, at least from his streak. I mean, he had a streak from 63 to 72, and then he didn't make another one until 2002.
So when this movie was released, it was officially X-rated, right?
Yeah, well, he submitted it to the MPAA as you would do to get approval, because I mean the whole thing is it's not based on laws. It's just all, the thing about it is but major film theater, have decided that they don't want to run X-rated films at this time. So, but at the time they would, but his ratings still didn't really matter as much in the types of venues that would play. Maybe he was hoping for getting in a bigger type of theater, but either way, it doesn't matter as much in drive-ins and independently owned sleaze bag 42nd Street movie theaters or something like that.
And on a side note, I feel like the only times ratings really mattered was like in like the 2000s. I think after we got to like the 2010s, like as of like 10 years ago, ratings don't really matter anymore. I mean, they just made a movie with Carnage, it's PG-13. So that's say what you want. And he wasn't as Carnage as we. But anyways, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But anyways, which by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to add, we will be talking about this Tuesday on the film panel. We will be doing a short little our little thoughts. Mark, have you seen Venom yet?
Yes, I have, and I do have some thoughts. So
all right, so this Tuesday, you guys will get
in on this.
This Tuesday, we're gonna do the full film panel episode, and you will get our thoughts on that and some other topics as well. So stay tuned for that. But thank you guys for coming through and watching us here on the HAP Film Panel. I am me. This is Mark Platt. This is Smith, and ladies and gentlemen, we are the Half-Ass Film Panel. And we are OU.